Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Welcome back to a Requiem in London. In this particular scene, Mr. Goodman has returned to his old resting place of the Hammerhead Biker Bar and within Ordo territory. He's been forcing himself to stay away due to his previous reputation. Though things have cooled down, and now he can finally go back to a somewhat semblancy of normalcy. Though now he has to say to every person that thinks who he is, just says, "Nah, I just happen to look like them." As he sits at the bar, or sits at one of the tables, seems to be eating um, old-fashioned thing of fish and chips uh, at one of the tables.
Uh, this evening Violet is in her typical post-work wear, so just a lab coat, typical button-up shirt, the rest. She enters the bar with a cool expression on her face and walks over towards where she sees Julian and taps him on the shoulder.
He looks up and recognizes your face and says, "Doctor, how can I help you?" As he continues to focus back on his food.
She gives a faint smile. Goodman, it's a pleasure to see you again.
I hope it is. As he gestures to a parallel seat. If it's a complaint about one of my ordo mates, talk to them, please.
She shakes her head. Actually, I don't have any complaints. Alexander has been an asset recently.
Um, I didn't necessarily mean Alexander, but you're not wrong for bringing him up. And now he pushes the food away from his focus and says, "Okay, how can I help you?"
You are a member of the Order, are you not?
"Yes, I am."
I am a member of the Carthian movement, as you would most likely know. But I have been wishing to learn more about the other sects, I suppose, if you would be so inclined.
He looks at her with a bit of mild surprise. You're braver than most. Most people avoid us.
She kind of raises an eyebrow as she takes the seat next to him with a "Remind me, why again is that?"
Hmm. Some call us freaks. Others say we're mad scientists. And others say we're the monster of monsters, which I always find surprising because the crone exists.
She kind of gives a steady nod. She's got a very mirror-like, mirror smoothness on her face. She doesn't really express her emotions. I suppose that makes sense. But do tell me, the Ordo, mad scientists, are they not? They'll have to be mad.
We're not mad. We just choose not to limit ourselves.
She kind of nods, pauses, and says, "Would you mind telling me about the Ordo here in London?"
Well, I've been raised by the Ordo most of my life, so I can give you some details. Up until the recent war, things were relatively calm. Well, apparently, that was somewhat of a facade. But To make a long story short, we did what we normally do. We kept ourselves quiet and our heads down and made deals with the other sects to gain more capital for our research or potential test subjects. And we tried to improve the kindred condition.
She gives a soft nod and says, "My bloodline is about the core of balance, and it would be, I suppose, an interesting venture to see where my research could cross over with those of us in the night."
Hmm. Well, I will say to you, depending on what order you talk to, they don't much care for that term. Balance, some say, is a hindrance. There's only results.
She hums a few notes of an unrecognizable melody, seeming to look over into a corner where there's nothing, as like far as you can tell. She seems like she's rather lost in thought this evening. I would be interested in perhaps working with the Ordo for a while and seeing how that might go.
I'm surprised you would be willing to do so. We are not necessarily on good terms with the movement right now.
She kind of pauses just as of such time. I am merely connected with a sect for the sake of doing so, I believe. There are only one or two things that truly matter to me, and one of them is my research.
Then I would say maybe you're not with the most effective sect for your particular needs.
She gives a nod. What of yourself? Why did you join the Ordo?
Hmm. As I stated earlier, I was raised in it, even back when I was just a normal person.
It is rare to hear kindred speak of the time before they were embraced here in London, I've noticed.
Hmm. Some are too old or they force themselves to forget, but we both know if you forget the past, you're doomed to repeat it.
There's a thoughtful expression in her face at the moment he says that. And she taps a finger on the table and says, "Certainly, I am rather disconnected from who I once was, but even now I am reminded to not repeat my mistakes."
History.
When he looks at her, he can see that she only has one eye underneath like the soft fringe of hair hanging over her face. She kind of places a finger to the like closed eyelid for a moment, like she's remembering something.
The past is painful, but it doesn't change the fact that it existed. The main thing is to grow from it.
Some might call it painful, some might call it a catalyst. Whatever happened, I am here now, and nothing can change the past, so I must look to the future.
So good. So don't let the past slow you down. I believe there's a term I heard once from an order member. Kill it if you have to, but I don't think that's necessary most of the time.
She kind of gives a thoughtful nod. I have come across Dr. Hartwell quite a few times. He is interesting, an interesting man.
Eccentric but effective.
She gives a nod. He stepped in at the Elysium last time it was held for me. I am grateful for that.
That's interesting. Curious why.
She kind of shrugs. Like it's not like a dramatic shrug, it's just a small who knows.
Yeah. If you pardon this possibly alien terminology, Hartwell is a blue dragon, as far as I'm concerned.
Remind me what that means.
That's a particular creature in any board game that children play. There are all types of dragons. The blue dragons are the ones that tend to hoard information and act almost like an organized crime unit in and of themselves. They gather, supply, use their information to make moves within the political landscape.
Much the same we do.
Indeed. But the main thing I'm trying to get a point across is Harwell doesn't do anything for the good of the people typically. Not saying that he's generally spiteful or malicious, but there's always a debt to be paid.
She hums for a moment. Um, she seems to take in the words, processing them for a moment, and says, I have noticed, I suppose, that Hartwell is somewhat eccentric minded, but all the same, if he is to be one of my future sect mates, I will do what I can to keep the peace. She kind of gives a wry smile at that.
But if you wish to join the Ordo, you'll need to show some sense of proof of your, let's just say, interest and loyalty. They're not the biggest about taking in people from other sects, but it's not unheard of.
I would not expect any less. My history and research should help, I suppose, but I've never really investigated outside the human condition, shall we say.
That will be your main focus as any Ordo. I'm not saying we don't do experimentation to affect the human condition, but we're all about breaking the limitations of being a kindred. For me, example, I have a mastery over my beast that no other person will probably ever have.
She seems to be a little bit more expressive than the times he's seen her in Elysium, but she gives a slight nod. I look forward to seeing what, I suppose, the Order comes up with.
So, with enough time and effort, you can do amazing things. And I'm more than willing to guide you. For you can figure out, so you can eventually find your own path.
I would
But,
greatly appreciate that.
but I must warn you you until you exceed the rank, and pardon the term, but it's simply tradition of being a slave, a person that does not have coils. You will be more than likely mistreated by a less than charitable teacher. I am not one of them, but if I am not, I wish to warn you ahead of time.
Noted. I can stand on my own 2 feet.
Good. I know some would say our ways are cruel or unhumanitarian, but I would say one thing we have in common with the crone is we don't have typically the highest respect for humanity, or at least not the same reverence compared to the other sex. Me personally, humanity is humanity, and then there is a luster to it that does not reside within being a true kindred. But I won't let it hold me back. At least not completely.
She gives a nod, seems to be thinking about what well, like everything he's been saying sincerely.
But
What affiliation, I suppose, do the Order have with the new prince, by the way?
probably the same that we've always had, mercenary like, unless they want us to be um, in a particular focus. We'll come to the prince's aid if they need research or possibly some enhancements. Other than that, we're not like the Longinus, and we're trying to give people spiritual guidance, or the crone with their guidance in the and within the spirits and the supernatural, nor the Carthian movement in the sense of, let's say, proper democracy and balance. Said we simply grow stronger in our ways, and if those are willing to listen, so we will show them our ways, or at least provide our services.
She nods. It is greatly appreciated, Mr. Goodman. I look forward to speaking with you again.
He nods. I
She. Oh, sorry.
I must ask if you're truly serious about joining us. What do you wish to break of your state at this moment?
She gives a wry smile as she rises from the bar. That remains yet to be revealed, at least to those outside myself. And with that, she turns and leaves the bar.
He will just nod in her general direction, uh, as a sign of goodbye, and will bring back the food in his focus. Though you may see him notice him looking at the clock, probably keeping time of when he needs to eventually throw this stuff up. Bless your life or not, you can't keep this stuff down forever. And with that, thank you players for playing. Thank you watchers for watching. Have a good morning, evening, or night.